Okay, there we go. Okay, so let me do a brief introduction here for those who may watch the video, which is today we're going to focus on Paradiso, chapter 28. And we're going to start with Dee Dee reading a summary or an introduction from Dorothy Sayers.
Okay. Dante, gazing into the eyes of Beatrice, becomes aware of a light reflected in them. He looks behind and sees the light of God as an infinitely small but dazzling, brilliant point encircled by 9 radiant rings. Beatrice explains the relationship of these circles to the movement of the heavens and identifies them as the 3 hierarchies or the 9 orders of angels. And I need to tell you something else. Reading Barolini last night or the night before, she said that Beatrice is the voice, she's Aquinas. She represents what Aquinas taught or learned.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that was the introduction that she gave right there. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Looking in chat for the book reading order.
Okay, what is that? Let's take a look at it. Oh, I read first. I guess I better get on it. Okay, are we going to read through the whole thing and then we'll go back and do it piece by piece?
Shall we do that? I think we did it, but no harm in doing it again.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Good.
Okay. So after the truth against present life of miserable mortals was unfolded by her who doth in paradise my mind, as in a looking glass a taper's flame, he sees who from behind is lighted by it, before he has it in his sight or thought, and turns him round to see if so the glass tell him the truth, and sees that it accords therewith as doth a music with its meter. In similar wise my memory recollecteth that I did, looking into those fair eyes, of which love makes the springs to ensnare me. And as I turned me round and mine were touched by that which is apparent in that volume, whenever on its gyre we gaze intent, a point beheld I, that was rain out light so acute, the sight which it enkindles must close perforce before such great acuteness. Okay, next please.
And whatsoever star seems smallest here would seem to be a moon if placed beside it, as one star with another star is placed. Perhaps at such a distance as appears, a halo cincturing the light that paints it, when densest is the vapor that sustains it. Thus distant round the point a circle of fire, so swiftly whirled that it would have surpassed whatever motion soonest girds the world. And this was by another circumsync, that by a third then by a fourth, by a fifth the fourth, and then by a sixth the fifth. The seventh followed thereupon in width, so ample now that Juno's messenger entire would be too narrow to contain it. Even so the eighth and ninth, and every one, more slowly moved according as it was, in number distant, farther from the first. And that one had its flame most cry crystalline, from which less distant was the stainless spark, I think because more with its truth imbued. My lady, who in my anxiety beheld me much perplexed, said from that point, dependent is the heaven and nature all. Behold that circle most conjoined to it, and know thou that its motion is so swift through burning love, whereby it is spurred on. Next, please.
And I to her, if the world were arranged in the order which I see in yonder wheels, what set before me would have satisfied me. But in the world of sense we can perceive that evermore the circles are diviner, as they are from the centre more remote. Wherefore, if my desire is to be ended in this miraculous and angelic temple that has for confines only love and light, to hear behoves me still how the example and the exemplar go not in one fashion, since for myself in vain I contemplated. If thine own figures unto such a knot be insufficient, it is no great wonder, so hard hath it become for want of trying. My lady thus did said she, do thou take what I shall tell thee, if thou wouldst be sated, and exercise on that thy subtly. The circles corporal are wide and narrow, according to the more or less of virtue, which is distributed through all their parts. The greater goodness works the greater wheel. The greater wheel the greater body holds, if perfect equally are all its parts. Therefore, this one which weeps along with it, universe sublime, doth correspond unto the circle which most loves and knows. Next, please.
Does that mean?
Yeah. Line 73.
Yeah. On which account, if thou unto the virtue apply thy measure, not to the appearance of substances that unto thee seem round, thou wilt behold a marvelous agreement of more to greater and less to smaller in every heaven with its intelligence. Even as remaineth splendid and serene the hemisphere of air, when Boreas is blowing from that cheek where he is mildest, because it is purified and resolved in the rack that erst disturbed it, till the welkin laughs with all the beauties of its pageantry. Thus did I likewise, after that my lady had me provided with her clear response, and like a star in heaven the truth was seen. And soon as to a stop her words had come, not otherwise does iron scintillate when molten, then those circles scintillated. Their coruscation, all the sparks repeated, and they so many were, their number makes more millions than the doubling of the chess. I heard them sing Hosanna, choir by choir, to the fixed point which holds them at the ubi, and ever will, where they have ever been. And she who saw the dubious meditations within my mind, the primal circles, said, have shown these seraphim and cherubim. Thus rapidly they follow their own bonds to be as like the point as most they can, and can as far as they are high in vision. Those other loves that round about them go, thrones of the countenance divine are called, because they terminate the primal triad. And thou shouldst know that they all have delight as much as their own vision penetrates the truth in which all intellect finds rest. Next.
From this it may be seen how blessedness is founded in the faculty which sees, and not in that which loves and follows next. And this seen merit is the measure. which is brought forth by grace and by goodwill. Thus on from grade to grade doth it proceed. The second triad, which is germinating, in such wise as this sempiternal spring, that no nocturnal Aries despoils. Perpetually Hosanna warbles forth with threefold melody that sounds in three orders of joy, with which it is entwined. Next, please.
The three divine are in this hierarchy. First the dominions and the virtues next, and the third order is that of the powers. Then in the dances twain penultimate, the principalities and archangels wheel. The last is holy of angelic sports. These orders upward, all of them are gazing, and downward so prevail that unto God they all attracted are and all attract. And Dionysius, with so great desire to contemplate these orders, set himself. He named them and distinguished them as I do. But Gregory afterwards dissented from him, wherefore as soon as he unclosed his eyes, within this heaven he at himself did smile. And this so much of secret truth immortal, proffered on earth, I would not have thee marvel, for he who saw it here revealed it to him, with much more of the truth about these circles.
Mhm.
Okay. So we should read and stop and bring up questions and thoughts.
I think that would be a good idea.
So, okay, that's Andy.
I'll let Anne my circle because she didn't get a chance.
Well,
We skipped her.
I think that maybe she.
Your mic is on, Anne.
Yeah, she hasn't been through it, so maybe it would be, Duncan put up an order here. Maybe it would be best if she goes through it before she starts to read. What do you think, Anne?
Yeah, well, I prepared for today. I read it before.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Start.
I
Fine, Anne.
suggest you
Okay, so
go ahead then.
It's only fair, Anne.
we went all the way through it, and now we're gonna.
Yeah, the first three. I'll read the first three.
Yeah, where it's not a number, where
Yeah, I
someone
know.
thought or a question. Or you
Okay.
yourself or someone else.
Mhm. Okay. After the truth against the present life of miserable mortals was unfolded by her who doth empraise my mind, in paradise my mind. As in a looking glass, a taper's flame, he sees who from behind is lighted by it, before he has it in his sight or thought, and turns him round to see if so the glass tell him the truth, and sees that it accords therewith as doth a music with its meter. In similar wise, my memory recollected that I did, looking into those fair eyes, of which love made the springs to ensnare me.
Yeah, I'm interested in the picture he's painting.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning.
Mhm.
The looking glass,
Kind of-
and the flame.
Yeah, he's kind of we're reading through it quickly, but it's an interesting picture.
And the openings lines refer back to Paradiso 27, where
Mhm.
Peter and Beatrice are lamenting the state of mortals on earth.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've not seen that word in paradise before.
Yeah, I like that word.
Yeah.
I didn't either. So, and then that picture, I'm just trying to picture it in my mind, the next
Before we go on to the
verse.
picture, though,
Uh-huh.
what get that in paradise and the implications, assuming that that's a fair translation of the Italian, it
Mhm.
implies that Dante is still dependent upon Beatrice
Yeah.
for his faith in paradise, even at this late stage. So,
Yeah, it's the same word in Italian, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dante made it up.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. It's a marvelously good word, though. It really carries a lot of weight in it. And like I say, at least to me at this time, it implies that even, I mean, we're on Canto 28. And Dante, for all of his talking to James and then Peter and talking about the basis of his faith, it seems that this implies that his faith still is highly dependent upon Beatrice.
I've just looked up the word in the dictionary. It is here.
Wow.
Yeah, and it says to make as happy as though in paradise, transport and rapture, to
wow.
make into a paradise. So it doesn't say, I mean, it could still be a Dante created word, but it is in the dictionary at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
To make us happy as though in paradise. Hey, that's
All right.
I'm gonna use that
It's
word.
brilliant.
Yeah, that's a great word.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes. All right. So now we can go on to Dee Dee's focus of interest here, which is the image that's being created. Okay, Dee Dee, you would want to say something about that?
Well, there's a mirror, a looking glass, and a flame, and a character behind the flame is lighted by the mirror. Before he has it in his sight or thought and turns around to see if so the glass tells him the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that?
Yeah.
Spirit.
Yeah. So if I'm in a room, let's say I have a mirror on my door and I'm turned towards that mirror, and someone comes in the room behind me, and I see, oh, there's Beatrice, for example. And then I turn around and this is the interesting part. So I turn around to make sure it's really Beatrice, which is a wonderful, you do this and you do this we do this when we're driving all the time. We're driving down the road and we see something in the rear view mirror, and sometimes we want to turn and make sure that it's really that and the distance that it's from us and all that stuff. That's my understanding anyway.
Thank you. And then the next line, as doth the music with its meter.
Yeah, that's a more difficult thing. But maybe any of us have any musical talent here?
But
We have this.
we don't have to know. Should I probably Sarah's doesn't say anything like that. It's not about mythology or
Class of
anything.
music with its meter.
No, she doesn't.
Well, I think it's one, music is meter. And so like this turning to see what the taper has lit up, it's the same thing. It's one with the other.
Mm.
But you can play a piece of music in the wrong meter, right?
Yeah.
So
But
this is interesting that he's using a visual with an oral. He's
Mhm.
making a comparison between something that's visual and using an oral analogy.
But I wouldn't expect him to use an oral with a mistaken meter of music.
Chords.
But anyway, I think you're right.
I guess you hear the music and then you recognize its meter. Once you have to hear it and then catch on to which meter it's in after you've been listening.
Or if you're playing, let's say that you come into a room and there is a score on the stand, and you have your violin with you, and you start playing the notes, and then you try different meters with it. And then all of a sudden 1 meter, let's say that you play it slowly first, since it's a brand new piece of music to you. And then you experiment with how fast to play it. And then at a certain point you hit a meter where it sounds, this sounds like what the composer wants.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, I'm just kind of struggling with this. That's my.
Yeah. There's something, similar in both images that it's getting through my thick skull. So, and then, hey, Anne, why don't you read the next verse, those 3 lines?
And as I turned me round, and mine were touched by that which is apparent in that volume, whenever on its gyre we gaze intent.
Wow, that is so different from Longfellow.
Well, it is Longfellow.
Well, that is Longfellow, but she skips 3 lines.
That wasn't the lines I had in mind.
The lines are up 10 lines.
You mean
10.
in similar wise?
Yeah.
In similar
Okay,
wise.
I'll read that. Okay, in similar wise, my memory recollecteth that I did, looking into those fair eyes, of which love made the springs to ensnare me.
Okay, so then read the next one too, because
Okay.
Wait a minute, it goes on a while, because then
Go ahead.
he's explaining how what he was seeing became clear to him.
Go ahead. Someone else go ahead and read.
Who's next?
Do you want to go 13 to 15?
After ensnare me, that's 113 or 114. And as I
turned me round and mine were touched by what? Sorry. And as I turned me round and mine were touched by that which is apparent in that volume, whenever on its gyre we gaze intent. Okay. Point behind that. And I go for 16, 17, 18?
Yeah, I
So,
think we could go
yeah,
down to
that's what he's gazing at.
after
Point
22.
Yeah. Okay. A point beheld I that was raying out light so acute, the sight which it enkindles was closed perforce before such great acuteness. And whatsoever star seemed smallest here would seem to be a moon, if placed beside it, as one star with another star is placed.
Okay, I think that's good. I think that's good.
So he goes to look. He's trying to look at Beatrice. And this is what he beholds. And I think that's God, according to Sayers.
Excuse me?
I think that Sayers, he looks behind and sees the light of God as an infinitely small but dazzling, brilliant point.
And am I correct in saying that he sees the light of God reflected in Beatrice's eyes?
Yeah, I think that's the simile, just like you see in the mirror and then you turn around to confirm it. He
And he
starts off
said,
looking at Beatrice's eyes and then he turns around.
yeah, I did, looking into those fair eyes.
And then he's faced with the problem of how big is whatever he's seeing.
So
I
maybe
think,
move it.
I think part of what's going on here is that this is such a strange and new environment to him that he doesn't know the dimensions of anything. He doesn't even really know the dimensions of Beatrice.
Yeah, he's trying to put it into words.
And actually trying to figure out what it is he's experiencing.
Yeah. But it's not like he's going to come up with a solution. Yeah, to me, it's porous or ethereal or something that
Oh, yeah.
he's not capable of fixing in a corporal sense.
But I think he's also saying that he's also implying that he has to try to do that because that's the only way he can understand things.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's putting his human and mortal mind at play here when he's in the primum mobile, and it may not, his mortal sense may not be capable of perceiving something in
The lines are here, 1819 or 1718. Light so acute, sight which it enkindles must close before such great acuteness. Like he couldn't keep looking.
Yeah, it's too bright.
Actually, we will have this experience this Saturday here in Texas.
Yeah.
That it will be so bright that when the eclipse happens, that the edges of the eclipse will be so bright that our eyesight will be in danger if we look
you
into it.
wear these dark glass over your eyes, so you'll
I've got them. I've got them.
imaged. Yeah.
Oh dear.
The one positive thing which our ex-president did was teach us not to look at the sun without protection.
He did something.
He
Wow.
looked at the sun without, he just looked directly at the sun. And that was all over the newspapers
I
and
forgot.
the TV.
It didn't blind him though, huh? He was already
Well,
blind.
there's never been a follow-up report on that,
On what happened to his eyes.
on what happened to his eyes. So, but anyway,
Before and after.
you may, what was it? Was it in Canto 27 or 26 that actually Dante went through a similar thing where he saw a light so bright he became blind for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, that has happened. I mean, to me, just going out in the sunlight, it's too
Sure.
bright to your eyes have to adjust to it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I
But not the extent of an eclipse.
The
but
thing
I
I
think
experienced, something can be so bright that you're not really seeing well after
Yeah.
your eyes.
Yeah.
I have that trouble all the time. I don't even have to look at an eclipse. If I get a bright light, if I get a glare in my eye, my eyesight literally melts down.
Dangerous.
And I've learned that when that happens, that as soon as possible, I just need to go and lay down for about 10 minutes or so
Mhm.
and close my eyes, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
But there's no way for me to fight through it. But
Mm.
I think in this particular case, going back to Dante here, that in the earlier thing when he went blind, he was actually blind for quite some time. And it took time. He had this whole, I believe, conversation with Saint James, if I remember correctly. And then slowly his sight came back. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens this time. And this time, so far, he just has to shut his eyes. Light so acute, the sight of which it enkindle must close perforce before with such great acuteness.
And he's trying to picture the size of it, trying to give us a sense of how small it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, we should probably read a little further.
Okay.
Should I go ahead? I think Anne read this. Perhaps at such a distance as appears a halo.
You want to go back to 19, I believe.
Well, 19 is the size of the stars.
Okay, and whatsoever star seems smallest here would seem to be a moon.
It's just the proportion of size, trying to
Okay.
give us a sense of how tiny that light was that knocked him out.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I think starting at 23 is what I should do. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Perhaps at such a distance as appears, at such a distance as appears a halo cincturing the light that paints it. Cincturing means circling,
Like, yeah,
and densest is the vapor that sustains us.
it
Thus distant round the point, a circle of fire so swiftly whirled that it would have surpassed whatever motion soonest girds the world.
mm-hmm.
I'm trying to picture that.
I think it's a spinning point, right?
There's the world, and the circle of fire is swirling around it. Faster than anything closer to it, circling it, which is the opposite, I guess, of what's usual. No, I don't know.
So
Distant round the point, a
it
circle of
rotates
fire. So
the
swiftly.
fastest.
So we have a
No,
point. We have a circle of fire. The circle of fire is spinning very, very rapidly. In fact, spinning more rapidly than anything on Earth ever spins. And then I think around that spinning circle of fire is another circle of fire around it, and then another one around it,
Your
and
cauliflower.
another one around it.
Mhm.
So I think our point of view is we are looking at the center point of the primum mobile.
Mm.
And we are seeing all the various circles of heaven. I think whoever reads next needs to read down at least to and through line 36.
And I keep going, but I'm
Yeah,
still
yeah.
somewhat blurry about this picture.
Well, you've been looking at something so bright you have to close your eyes.
Maybe it'll come into focus.
Mhm.
A circle of fire so swiftly whirled that it would have surpassed whatever motion soonest girds the world. And
Mhm.
this was by another circumcinct, that by a third, the third, then by a fourth, by a fifth, the fourth, and then by a sixth, the fifth. The seventh followed thereupon in width so ample now that Juno's messenger entire would be too narrow to contain it. And I have a little note that says that's the rainbow, Juno's messenger. And I don't know why that is. So there are these separate circles circling the center.
I think all these circles are all the levels of heaven that we've been traveling up through
Yeah,
for
that's,
the last 3 or 4 months.
and the levels Sayers talked about, the levels of placement in this. Let me go a little further. Even so, the eighth and ninth and everyone more slowly moved according as it was in number, distance farther from first. So that's how it works.
Hmm.
But that's opposite. When the one in the center, when you're doing centrifugal motion, the
Yeah,
one in the center is slower and they go faster and faster as they get to the outer. That's
right.
how a ballerina spins. Let me read one more verse and then either talk about this more or move on. And then one had its flame most crystalline, from which less distant was the stainless spark, I think, because more with its truth imbued. Okay, and then the next is Beatrice, I think, is going to explain this. So someone else should read now.
Mm.
You want to go back to the picture.
So then we're back to Anne, is that right?
And
Anne Meisner. Oh, she's on the
It's on the
phone.
phone.
and yeah. That's line 40 or 39. I can't tell when I look at this.
Okay, so Anne Doyle?
Okay.
Oh, no.
And
Actually,
No, it's you.
it would be me.
So it
Yeah,
would be,
it's you. Dante.
what are we doing here?
Okay,
back to
so
normal.
starting with line 40, my lady who in my anxiety beheld me much perplexed said, from that point dependent is the heaven and nature all. So that's it. There's the source. Okay. Behold, that circle most conjoined to it. And know thou that its motion is so swift through burning love whereby it is spurned on.
Third.
Okay, so it's actually the circle that's spinning so swift.
So we have nine,
We have 9. Mhm.
nine, um, passages, let's say. We have 9 choirs of angels that's coming up. So, and then I think aren't they sometimes trying to make a parallel with the earth and its design and the primum mobile?
Mhm.
Yeah, so it parallels the earthly, in some respects, they parallel each other. But the nine is the number, that's the magic number in this, isn't it?
Are you nodding your head in agreement there, John?
Is,
I think he's totally enjoying the beautiful day we have here.
I've got the noise coming from the housework,
Mhm.
garden work out here, and traffic. So I'm just trying to follow as best I can.
Oh,
Stay on mute mostly.
Okay. All right.
so which less distant, its flame most crystalline from which less distant was the stainless spark? Because its truth, with its truth imbued. So that was the one closest to the center, more
Yes.
Akin to the truth, more revealing of the truth.
Well, God is the light. And the first circle that's closest to God is moving the fastest. And with each circle, each of the other 8 circles, as it gets further from that point, it's still going fast, but it's going slower than the one closest to it. That's my understanding.
Because of its truth.
By love, through burning love, whereby it is spurred on.
And know thou
So it
that
must be the
its
motive.
motion.
It's the motive.
The motive is love. Is that what you said, Anne?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
It's love is spurring.
Okay, so that's okay. That was okay. So this is Beatrice speaking. From that point, dependent is the heaven and nature all. Behold that circle most conjoined to it, and know thou that its motion is so swift through burning love, whereby it is spurned on. And then it changes to Dante talking.
Okay.
Where's
Okay.
where's the line about burning love? What number is that?
That
45.
45. 45.
Oh, okay, we haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, we did. Didn't we just get there?
Thought so.
I think so.
But it's fine. Okay.
Are we moving?
So he's answering her now.
Then he goes to answer and I to her. Okay. Who reads next?
Does John want to read?
John, are you reading or is it too noisy?
Uh,
I don't hear the noise.
okay, I'll try then. And I to her, if the world were arranged in the order which I see in yonder wheels, what set before me would have satisfied me. But in the world of sense, we can perceive that evermore the circles are diviner, as they are from the center more remote. Wherefore,
Mhm.
if my desire is to be ended in this miraculous and angelic temple that has for confines only love and light, to hear behooves me still how the example and the exemplar go not in one fashion, since for myself in vain I contemplate it.
Okay, I think that's probably sufficient for the nonce.
And then Beatrice is answering him. So what was that?
I think there was an important sentence or line, line 54. The confines of this environment he's in is the confines are love and light.
In this angelic
Yeah.
temple, in
Yeah.
where they,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes. So he's
I don't understand the next two lines, though. It behooves me still how the example and the exemplar go not in one fashion.
Yeah, and since for myself in vain I contemplate it. He's saying he doesn't understand this either,
Mhm.
like us.
Well, I think what we have here is we have a thing where, you know, Dante is looked up. And this is an instance where he is at the peak looking down, and he just doesn't have enough experience to know what to do with it.
Yeah. Mhm. So then she's answering him, starting with the next line.
Mm-hmm. And let me bring up, I don't know if this is a good enough metaphor or not, or contrast or not, but it's like if you live in a place where there is a tall mountain and you spend all your time in the valley looking up at the top of the mountain, when you finally get to a point where you're able to climb up to the top of the mountain and you look down, it takes a long time. I mean, you know, it's a different view, but it takes a long time to actually be able to see what's going on from the top of the mountain.
Mhm. And it's like the poet struggling to put this into words. And then Beatrice giving him some thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
of course, which he wrote, which he gave her he put in her mouth.
Okay, and here's something I want to say also, and now this may be a completely wrong interpretation, but on line 58, if thine own fingers into such a knot be insufficient, it is no great wonder, so hard hath it become for want of trying.
And that's Beatrice talking.
That is Beatrice talking.
Mhm.
I
My lady thus. Then
Oh,
said she, that
okay.
is
No, no,
Beatrice
no.
talking.
Okay, this is going to be a totally silly example, but you remember when kids we used to do this thing where we would knot our fingers together and then
Yeah.
someone would say, okay, you know, move this finger. They would point at a finger and then we would try to move it and we would get it wrong.
Yeah, they didn't know which finger.
We didn't know which finger was which because we had never seen our fingers that way.
I'm trying it.
And
I
I'm
can do it.
probably just being silly, but anyway, that's what it reminds me of.
But she's a little hard on him now. She suggests he hasn't been trying hard enough to understand.
No, she's saying so hard has it
So
become
hard
for
has it
want of trying.
become.
It's no great wonder. So hard hath it become for want of trying. She's consoling him. She says, "You're trying." That's what I
Well,
think.
like,
Question is repeated.
or you could interpret
Content.
the want of trying to mean because you don't have experience.
Mhm.
It's no great wonder so hard as
Sure.
it
You're
becomes for
trying.
want of trying. You've
Right.
never had to try this before. This is
Right.
brand new. You've
Right.
never been up here. You
Right.
don't know the territory. So don't, so
Yeah.
it could interpret it either, it could be interpreted probably in three different ways. At
But
least.
not that she's criticizing him.
Well, it could be. It could
I
be.
think so. I think she's trying to encourage him.
Mm.
She's sympathizing that he hasn't got it yet.
Well, let's
But
see
he
what.
hasn't had the opportunity.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's brand new.
Yeah. So he doesn't have
That-
it
yeah,
yet,
that's
but he is trying. So who's
Mm.
reading what my lady said now? There's a lot here. There's a
Okay.
whole long passage.
Okay, who's reading it?
I'm next. So how far down do you want me to go?
Your
Until
intuition. Your
get stuck
intuition.
somewhere.
Pardon?
Why don't you just keep reading unless we get stuck on something somewhere to the whole
Okay.
quote? It's
So I'm going to start on 61.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. My lady thus then said she, do thou take what I shall tell thee, if thou wouldest be sated and exercise on that thy subtlety. The circles corporal are wide and narrow according to the more or less of virtue, which is distributed through all their parts. The greater goodness works the greater weal. The greater weal, the greater body holds, if perfect equally of all its parts. Therefore, this one which sweeps along with it the universe sublime, those correspond unto the circle which most loves and knows. On which account, if thou unto the virtue apply thy measure, not to the appearance of substances that unto thee seem round, thou wilt behold a marvellous agreement of more to greater and of less to smaller in every heaven with its intelligence. Even as remaineth splendid and serene the
That's the end
hemisphere
of
of.
wait, that's the end of her quote, Anne.
Okay, thank you. 78.
Yeah,
That's it.
so and Marilyn is
Yeah.
talking about this of the particular and the universal. Particulars are you can pinpoint them, what they mean. And the universal, it's a larger picture, a more inclusive picture of these different levels of this circling levels around the center. It's interesting too, line 1, let's see, 61, 62, 63. The circles corporal are wide and narrow according to the more or less of virtue, which is distributed through all their parts. And then first they're different, more or less of virtue, distributed through all their parts. And in the next verse, the greater goodness works the greater weal, the greater body holds, if perfect equally are all its parts. So they're greater, and first he's saying they're greater, and then perfect would be if they're equal. And I guess the next verse is about the love. Does this accord with what other people are wondering?
Well, I'm
No.
struggling with this somewhat. I mean, the circle's corporal, wide and narrow. I'm not, my question is, are we, okay, so we're up at the primum mobile and we're looking downward and we see these various circles. And I'm going to assume that those circles, which are closest to the primum mobile, are wider.
It doesn't say that.
I know it doesn't
It
say
says
that.
they're more virtuous.
Well, they're wide and narrow according to the more or less of virtues.
Okay, so maybe then they are wider.
So I'm thinking, until contradicted or proven otherwise, that the closer a circle is to the primum mobile, well, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, there's somehow virtue affects whether a circle is wide or narrow.
And then that next verse is about unto the circle which most loves and knows.
What line are you looking at?
70, it's the verse that starts with 70.
Okay. Therefore, this one sweeps along with it. The universe sublime doth correspond unto the circle which most loves and knows. Okay, so a circle that most loves and knows is distinct in some manner from the other circles who don't love and know quite as much. My assumption is that the closer a circle is to the point, that we can assume the closer it is, the more it loves and knows.
And then I think
Wait.
the next three new verses contradict that.
There have been, I'm going back all the way to almost like Canto 3, where they had the thing with the two ladies, Constance and some other lady whose virtue had been, they were, the one who was married and then she had to leave her. Oh, she went to a nunnery and then her brother forced her into marriage for
yeah.
political reasons. And
Mhm.
then there's this whole thing where Beatrice is explaining to Dante that, well, yeah, I mean, from your human point of view, you might think that there's some sort of distinction between all the various people who are in heaven, but in reality, we only do that to make it more understandable to you as a human. That in reality, if you're in heaven, you're in heaven, and you're just as equal as all the other souls that make it to heaven.
But as I remember, she was compromised because she couldn't finish her commitment as a nun.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do remember that. But even that compromise was she was just at that first level of heaven.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
she was
Yeah,
only-
and Dante asks
only
her,
put
was she
there-
disappointed?
She was in
Dante
heaven.
asks her what, yeah, she was in heaven, but Dante asks her, is she disappointed? Because she's in the first level.
And
Mhm.
it just explains that actually the first level is just as good as the top level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she made it across the threshold.
She made it, yeah, she's good. So there's it seems a little contradiction here, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Even Berolini talks about that. He contradicts himself. Can we move a little faster? I really have to leave at 3:30.
We can leave it. We can stop anytime.
Yeah, we don't
Don't
have
worry,
to.
don't worry about where we end up. If we're having fun, we can continue this way.
Next
All right.
time.
Oops, along. Okay, so we got that. Now we're at 73.
Now 70, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right, 73. Yeah.
Okay, who's reading?
And
and-
I think
I'll read. On which
Yeah.
account, if thou unto the virtue apply thy measure, not to the appearance of substances that unto thee seem round, thou wilt behold a marvelous agreement of more to greater and of less to smaller in every heaven with its intelligence. Even as remaineth splendid and serene the hemisphere of air when Boreas is blowing from that cheek where he is mildest, because is purified and resolved the rack that erst distributed till the welkin laughs with all the beauties of its pageantry. The welkin laughs. What's a welkin? Isn't it isn't it a fish or a sea life?
I thought it was I thought it was like a clam.
Yeah, the
Like
the
a
cover.
one-sided clam or something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
Oh, no, it's the sky or heaven.
Ah,
oh wow.
so like an enclosure or
No, okay, let's see, because it is purified and resolved, the rack that first disturbed it till the welcome laughs with all, till heaven laughs with all its beauties and its pageantry.
I have it in my dictionary. The vault of heaven, the sky, archaic, it says.
okay. The vault of heaven.
Purified and resolved, the rack that first disturbed it. So is this implying when God laughs?
And that's what that makes the air purified. The arc of heaven is blowing in a clearing air, splendid and serene, with all the beauties of its pageantry. So he's narrating now, nobody's talking. Should you keep reading in?
Okay. Thus did I likewise. After that, my lady had me provided with her clear response, and like a star in heaven, the truth was seen. And soon as to a stop, her words had come. Not otherwise does iron scintillate when molten, than those circles scintillated. Their coruscation, all the sparks repeated, and they so many were, their number makes more millions than the doubling of the chess. I heard them sing Hosanna, choir by choir, to the fixed point which holds them at the ubi, and ever will, where they have ever been. And she, who saw the dubious meditations within my mind, the primal circles said, have shown thee seraphim and cherubim. Thus rapidly they follow their own bonds, to be as like the point as most they can, and can as far as they are high in vision. Those other loves that round about them go, thrones of the continents divine are called, because they terminate the primal triad. And thou shouldst know that they have delight as much as their own vision penetrates the truth, in which all intellect finds rest. For this it may be seen how blessedness is founded in the faculty which sees, and not in that which loves and follows next.
Hmm.
And of the seeing merit is the measure, which is brought forth by grace and by goodwill, Thus on from grade to grade doth it proceed. The second triad, which is germinating in such wise in this sempiternal spring, that no nocturnal Aries despoils. Perpetually, Hosanna warbles forth with threefold melody that sounds in three orders of joy with which it is entwined. Continue?
Yeah.
Okay, the three divine are in this hierarchy. First, the dominions and the virtues next, and the third order is that of the powers. Then in the dances twain penultimate, the principalities and the archangels wheel. The last is holy of angelic sports. These orders upward, all of them are gazing, and downward so prevail that unto God they all attracted are and all attract. And Dionysus, with so great desire to contemplate these orders, said himself, he named them and distinguished them as I do. But Gregory afterwards dissented from him. Wherefore, as soon as he unclosed his eyes within this heaven, he at himself did smile. Does someone want to read the last? I don't have it.
What line are you
Okay,
talking
so 136.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll read it. And if so much of secret truth to mortal proffered on earth, I would not have thee marvel. For he who saw it here revealed it to him with much more of the truth about these circles.
Oh, I guess he's talking. I wonder where that starts. Anyhow, would you like this note about Dionysus?
Yeah,
And this starts 130, 132. Dionysus, the Areopagite, who was mentioned in the Acts of the Apostles as having been converted by St. Paul, is said to have been the first bishop of Athens and to have suffered martyrdom there in the year 95. In the Middle Ages, he was believed to be the author of various theological writings, including the famous work on celestial history, which are now known to be the productions of the 5th and 6th century Neoplatonists. The doctrine of the hierarchy of angels was derived partly from the definitions of St. Paul in Ephesus 1:21, Colossus 1:16. What is Colossus? Book of the Bible. I don't know what that. And Romans 8:38, and from Jewish apocalyptic writings. Dionysus, or the author of the work accredited to him, distinguishes 9 orders subdivided into 3 groups or hierarchies, exactly as Beatrice enumerates them.
but it says Gregory gave them different names.
Right, I have that note too. Should I read that?
Yeah.
And then she has a chart putting the it tells what they are. Gregory's surname the Great, 590 to 604, treats of the subject of the angelic orders in his homilies on the gospel. He differs from Dionysius in the order he attributes to the dominions, principalities, powers, and virtues. Otherwise, their systems are identical. In the Convivo, Dante follows yet a third system, that suggested by Brunetto Latini. The distinction between these 3 systems can be seen if they are set out in tabular form. And she has a chart here. I would love to share it with you, but I have no idea how.
Well, I am putting the
Let me
link to
something.
the digital Dante page on this.
This is Sayers, and I'm putting it on speaker view. If you put it on speaker view, and I talk, you'll be able to see it. Let me get closer. Can you see it? This is
I can
Dante's
see it, I
chart.
can see it. You
Yeah.
kind of need to turn the book just a little bit. Yeah, well, hold on.
Better?
Yeah.
That's Dante's chart. The 9 whatever's and the 3 groups.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay.
This is
I'm
insane.
satisfied. I actually don't, for myself, it's kind of like, do I need these details?
It's also discussed by
Should I
Saint,
not just be glad to be in heaven in paradise?
but this is also this whole thing. One is Gregory's, one is Dionysius, and one is Dante's.
So
in
show me the cover of the book. What's the cover of the book that you've got?
This is Sayre's
Okay, that's her third.
Paradiso. This is her
Yeah.
translation of Paradiso.
Okay.
So
Does everybody see the chat and sees the digital Dante link in the chat?
No, I didn't see that.
I see it.
Yeah, I'll just put it in there. That's do you see it now? And you should see it.
Yeah, okay, got it.
So if you click on that, that will open your browser on that page. And you
Ah,
might want to save that page to read it later.
if you know how to do that. Oh, incidentally, I found that link you sent to me weeks ago, Duncan. Now,
Very good.
I
If
say
you can send it to me. I don't even remember what it was.
I have to read it. I haven't read it yet. So the first group is seraphim, cherubim, and powers. The second for Dante, the second group is principalities, virtues, and dominions. And the third group is thrones, archangels, and angels.
Yeah. Yeah. I can, and I'm like, okay, now if I'm in paradise, do I really care?
Well,
Do I really need to make a distinction between the seraphim and the cherubim and do I really care?
right. And that's what Dante is kind of juggling with. On the one hand, he's laying it out, and the other is that the be all and end all of the story of how things are arranged. And he
Well, I
leaves
think,
you,
yeah.
he leaves you, I think, deciding.
Well, I actually think he indirectly makes an argument because he's going to, maybe it was because I went on to Canto 29, but he's basically saying, these angels, they don't worry about this stuff. They do work on knowledge, but all their knowledge comes directly from contemplation of the primum mobile. They don't study stuff. They just get it kind of like Dante really gets it from Beatrice. All them angels, they're getting it from their concentration on the center point. And they never look behind. They're not looking behind and looking at the earth and studying what human beings are doing and all that, because they get all that knowledge just from their focus on the center, which is amazingly Zen. Because that's basically what Zen says also. Obtain the clear mind, focus on the clear mind, don't worry about any of that other stuff.
And maybe that has to do with his criticism of the church. So much, what's the right word? The scholarly accumulation of everything.
And all this, I ran across a new trilogy on Dante, and it is by a Catholic priest in Toronto. at some organization called the Oratory. And I got it because I thought, well, this is interesting. And it is very much like this. It's going into lots of details, which would be extremely important to a member of the priesthood in the Catholic Church. But anyway, I'm just being cranky. All right, where are we? Tell me what we're doing now.
I don't know. I feel like I've kind of got this canto now. Not that I mastered it, but that I'm comfortable with it.
You're satisfied for this round? Is that what you're saying?
I feel so.
Okay. And so, do we want to go on to 29 next time, or do we still have stuff to do here?
I think 29.
You think 29?
Me
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Okay. And if anybody has any points, if you look at 28 and you come up with any points, for example, if you did happen to follow up that link and read the Barolini thing, which I think is very, very good, and she has some really good charts on it. And it's just complex enough to be challenging, but not overwhelmingly complex. And then if you do read that, we can spend just a little bit of time at the beginning of the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. I promise to look at it if you send me the link right fast enough for us to remember what you sent me.
Well, you do access digital Dante, don't you, Sheila?
I haven't done it yet.
Oh,
To
well,
Columbia.
Just send me that link.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I'll
Because
send it
that's
to you.
all I need is that particular link.
Okay, and then you will have, once you find that, you have access to all of Barolini's stuff, including all of her lectures on, it's an incredible resource.
Yeah, right now I'm in the process, a lot are gone, 100,000 emails from
It's incredible.
Well, you've got
do
twice
have
as many
Zoom.
as I do.
It's so crazy.
All right.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much for leading this discussion. This was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I wish I could
Yeah.
do other things you're reading, but time is not abundant.
I know. The day is too beautiful
Oh, especially today, I want to get out.
today. Well, I think this is our last.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, go have a direct experience of paradise on earth then.
Okay.
All right, close it down.
Bye-bye.
And
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Diane.
I think Gabriella will come back next week.